All right, good morning. It is Thursday, February 27th, 2025, and this is the Daily Brief. The big story today is that glide bombs are less effective than they used to be because of what Ukraine has done. I'm going to get to that in just a moment. Let's start with this. 1,150 Russians off the battlefield, 8 tanks, 13 armored fighting vehicles, 69 artillery systems, 140 vehicles and fuel tanks. Okay, so these numbers have been consistently down. These numbers have been consistently up. And it's pretty interesting to watch. If you look at the statistics, last month, we have one day to go. It's actually 2 days. Could you count the last day of the month into the first day of the next month? That's how they count it. It's 48,000 Russian casualties. Here, it's only 32,000. So that shows that, it's just been far lower every day over this last month, which means that Russia just doesn't have the stuff to keep going, to keep pushing with the assaults like they were doing before. Okay, now let's turn our attention to something else. In the Black Sea, they don't have the stuff either. Prior to Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, this is according to the British Defense Update, Russia's leadership almost certainly perceived the Russian Federation Navy and the Black Sea Fleet as an integral component of their maritime power. After 3 years of war, Russia's naval capabilities in the Black Sea had been significantly constrained through highly effective Ukrainian operations. Pre-invasions, the Ukrainian Navy was vastly outnumbered by the Black Sea Fleet and limited to a small number of major warships and coastal defense vessels that even scuttled some of their own ships. Throughout the conflict, the Ukrainian Navy has been unable to operate conventionally in the Black Sea. However, since 24 February 2022, Ukrainian forces have destroyed or damaged at least 24 Russian vessels operating in the Black Sea. With basically no navy, they've scuttled or destroyed or damaged 24 ships. Wow. This includes the sinking of the Black Sea flagship, the Slava class cruiser Moskva, which was a real devastating morale blow early on in the war to the Russians, which had previously been described as a cutting-edge air defense platform that was hit by a rocket. I mean, it's just the irony there. As a result, the Moskva's Black Sea Fleet has been forced to move all of its major assets from its historic base in Sevastopol to Novorossiysk in the eastern Black Sea. Russian units operating in the region have also been forced to adapt their tactics and change in the areas in which they operate. Despite Russia's Black Sea Fleet currently being limited to the eastern Black Sea, it retains the ability to conduct long-range strikes into Ukraine in support of land operations. But you notice that they're not threatening maritime traffic like they once were, like early on in the war. We're going to sink your grain ship or something along those lines. Okay, at night, Ukrainian air defense largely repelled a Russian drone attack. Out of 166 Shahed drones, 90 were shot down, 72 were suppressed by electronic warfare. Now, suppressed by electronic warfare means it's going to veer off course. Doesn't mean it's not going to hit something, and it did hit some things. Russian drone debris caused a fire at an industrial facility in one of Kyiv's Oblast districts overnight. On 27 February, 81 rescuers and 24 pieces of equipment were employed at the scene. No one was killed or injured, so that's good. No one killed or injured. But yeah, I mean, now the sheer number, they can put out about 60 some odd per day. So they've been up in the 150, 160, 170 range for the last few days, which is pretty interesting that they're pushing as hard as they are with the Shaheds right now. Now, I haven't shown Andrew Perpetua's his updates for a little bit. I'm working through the backlog right now. I have 5 more days to finish. I'm hoping that I'll have it done this weekend. Been rough going through days with hundreds of videos and geos and then saying, oh, blank, got to do a backlog on top. People don't realize how much work it is. I'm sure it's a lot of work. Going through a single day worth of content is equal to working 2 full-time jobs easily. The workload and time commitment, easily 2 full-time jobs. Then on top of it, doing a backlog is like a part-time job. So when we get to see it, we're very grateful that we are able to see it to understand what's going on the battlefield. Okay, the armored forces of Ukraine have destroyed 500 10 Russian tanks and 1,125 armored combat vehicles since the beginning of this year in 2025. It's only February 27th, and you have these 510 tanks and 1,125 armored combat vehicles already. So, just to give you some perspective of what's happened. Now, that's largely attributed to our friend the drone. So I'm not going to show the video, but it says, watch as this drone exposes tanks worth 100 times its price, right? Like, so the drones can actually like multiply the effect on the battlefield because of what they are. It's just a fantastic technology. We'll talk more about that at the end. Russian authorities banned gasoline exports from March 1st to August 31st after dozens of drone attacks on Russian refineries. Okay, so again, drone attacks. Now, this has happened before. This is not new. They did this last year. And the reason that they're doing this is to ensure the supply of oil and gas and whatever products, petroleum products that they need within Russia before they try to sell it off. So the attacks have had an effect by limiting its ability to sell it in order to raise money in order to fuel the economy. According to the signed resolution of the Russian government, this decision was made to maintain a stable situation in the domestic fuel market. Several massive drone attacks on Russian refineries took place in February. According to media estimates in 2024, at least 10 large Russian refineries were attacked by drones. And in 2025, the armed forces of Ukraine attacked 27 fuel and energy facilities in Russia. As a result of the attacks, the country's oil refining volumes fell to a 12-year low of 267 million tons. Now, so what this, like I calculated this a little while back, and it was like every 2 point something days, not quite 3 days, 2.5 days or so, another refinery gets hit by Ukrainian drones. And that's going to wear them down over time. Okay, North Korea sent new reinforcements to the Kursk region. South Korean intelligence has stated that in early February, North Korea sent reinforcements to the Kursk region. The exact size of the reinforcement is not specified. Other articles are saying somewhere between 1,000 and 3,000 soldiers. So that's what's happening with them. A Russian soldier reports that their vehicle was hit. The column was destroyed, but the special military operation is definitely going according to plan. Definitely. Of course, how could it not go according to plan? I mean, after all, they're Russians, right? The Ukrainian forces recently advanced near Toretsk and Pokrovsk. Now in Pokrovsk, it's interesting. I've been watching Pokrovsk. I used to do this daily, and I'll do this periodically still. This daily, like, here's where the temperature is hottest on the battlefield. There's only six assaults here, and there's 70 assaults there. And it used to be Pokrovsk that was a hotspot. So I'm just looking at Pokrovsk more recently and just looking at like 33 assaults. Well, that makes sense in light of there's only 1,150 Russian casualties, so the number of assaults around Pokrovsk is lower, and that's correlated to the number of casualties. The Russians just don't have the stuff to keep advancing at the level that they were doing in December and January. Well, December and January were the higher months. Okay, Russian forces recently advanced near Kupiansk, Chasiv Yar, Kharkov, Vilka Novosilka, and Rabatny. So they are still making some progress. It's not nearly as far or as fast, but yeah, that's what the battlefield looks like. Meanwhile, Z-bloggers are changing their tune. Russian Z-bloggers are now working from new instruction. It boils down to, we don't really need those territories and resources. They're just causing us losses. What? Okay. So it seems that today the Russian special operation to save the people of Donbass looks like this. Ukrainian cities are wiped off the map. The conquered resources are shared with the United States. The remaining profits are divided among the close oligarchs. That's it. The people of Donbass have been saved. The translation of the post, quote, our special operation continues according to our own plan. Then they started saying if Russia had been able to take everything, it would have taken everything long ago. Huh? Okay, territory, my thoughts are, taking large territories means sentencing ourselves to large expenditures to restore them. We are not fighting for territories. Look at Siberia. We have territory. We're fighting for Russia's status in a new global order. Okay, so this is an excuse to say, I didn't really want that thing I can't achieve anyway. Which is kind of interesting rhetoric when you think about it. Okay, Russian pilot fighter bomber, says that the effectiveness of Russian glide bombs fell off a cliff recently due to widespread electronic warfare interference on both sides, and that Ukrainian countermeasures have now rendered satellite-guided correction useless. He says bombs often miss their targets now, but the problem was swept under the rug, as it often happens in Russia, to continue positive reports. Okay, this is amazing news. If they can okay, Russian glide bombs have been the scourge of the Ukrainian military. Like they have been really like using bombs were one level of technology. Putting it into the little wings and being able to glide it down and put it where it is, it's like turning dumb bombs into smart rockets, right? Or smart missiles. And it's been pretty awesome for the Russians and pretty terrible for the Ukrainians. But with electronic countermeasures, they're able to derail or just, knock them off course. That's huge for the Ukrainians. That should be the headline today. Ukraine is jamming Russian glide bombs across the front. Russian KABs and UMPKs rely on GLONASS. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that or I should spell that. Russia's GPS equivalent, and require a stable satellite signal for accurate strikes. However, Ukrainian electronic warfare systems are disrupting these signals, causing the bombs to go off course and detonate in fields. That's awesome news. That's really awesome news. Here's some more awesome news. This is political news. Putin secretly sold 100 tons of gold to continue funding the war. Like, that he needed to do that is important.
And can the European Union give such guarantees? It's not really a security organization.
Well, Ukraine, remember, has 110 brigades in the field. They've destroyed most of Russia's tanks. They produced 1.5 million drones last year. They are going to produce 4.5 million drones this year. If you'd asked me 3 years ago where Ukraine and Russia would be in this war in 3 years' time, I don't think either of us would have guessed that Russia would only capture 20% of Ukraine's territory. And Putin...
That's a really good point. When you think back to what was happening just 3 years ago today, we're all like, whoa, what just happened? And again, Putin thought it was going to be 3 days and then 3 weeks to mop up. And 3 years plus later, this is where we are.
Did you notice yesterday, interesting piece of news, has secretly sold 100 tons of Russia's gold. The Russian economy is getting into trouble. He has thrown everything he has in the last few months with these Pyrrhic victories, sacrificing thousands of soldiers to gain a village or two, precisely for this moment, to put himself in a position where he appears to be stronger than he is. Ukraine can fight on its own with our European support for the rest of this year, and I think Putin has to take this into account.
Yeah, that's correct. Ukraine can't be strong-armed into a bad deal because, oh no, things are going to be cut off, and by March or April or May or June or whatever, you're going to have no resources. No, Ukraine has the resources to continue going through at least 2025. Okay, the Lilika U-100 UAV, the eyes of our army in the sky. This reconnaissance drone helps our military detect the enemy at a distance of up to 100 kilometers and adjust fire. Its thermal imaging and optical cameras help to patrol the battlefield even under electronic warfare. So this thing is pretty incredible as a surveillance drone. And then we have the Bulva strike drone, hunts Russian armor with an AI brain. It finds weak spots that other weapons miss. So AI is another game changer on the battlefield as well, if you're not dependent on satellite tech. So there's talk of Elon threatening Starlink or that sort of thing, or maybe the US government might threaten Starlink. Okay, but AI is very different. You don't need the satellite connection. With proven record of striking targets 55 kilometers away, it's 3.6 kg warhead that punches through and jamming to strike and turn once safe Russian command centers into a hunting ground. That's right. So the technology is just keeps evolving. Massive compilation of Ukrainian FPV drones from the 80th Air Assault Brigade. I love these videos. It's just fascinating to watch. Just all these interceptions of these drones that they can knock them down and put them out of commission. All right. 10 years ago today, Russian opposition politician and fierce Kremlin critic Boris Nemtsov was shot dead on a bridge opposite Red Square. And then 11 years ago today, on this day in 2014, thousands of Ukrainian patriots made history standing against Russian soldiers and pro-Russian mobsters, blocking their attempt to seize the Crimean parliament. Now, the next day, Russian special forces stormed the building and raised the Russian flag. And this is what it's all about, folks. These are little girls seeing their dad come home from war, and they're so excited to see him, they can hardly believe it. But this soldier, this is what he's fighting for. And I mean, it's hard to say, like, when are you going to stop fighting when you know that your daughters are behind you? And that's what you're fighting for. All right, my friends, that's all that I have for today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes and the shares and the subscribes. Thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.